Good afternoon, Chairwoman Howard and members of the committee. My name is Nate Grasz, N-A-T-E-G-R-A-S-C, and I'm the Policy Director for Nebraska Family Alliance. First, I would just like to say this is a very difficult issue, and I would like to thank Senator Kavanaugh for the sensitive nature in which she's approaching it today in the hearing. Last year, the Nebraska legislature passed into law LB 1040, a compassionate and much-needed piece of legislation to create an optional, state-issued commemorative birth certificate for families who suffer the tragedy of losing a child to miscarriage. That legislation was voted out of this committee unanimously and passed on a final vote of 44-1 after an outpouring of support from mothers and families across Nebraska, as well as many OBGYNs and the Nebraska Hospital Association. These families and doctors shared how important and helpful it is to grieving parents for healthcare practitioners to be able to offer them something tangible to recognize and validate their loss. As one OBGYN wrote to the committee, these mothers and fathers are suffering. They suffer quietly and often feel alone and hopeless. Everyone heals in their own way, but how incredible it is to show these parents suffering in silence that they are supported and not alone. By offering the option of recognizing the loss of pregnancy, the state of Nebraska can help support the 1 in 4 women who will suffer a miscarriage. I believe it is the least we can do. Families grieving the loss of a child deserve to know that this commemorative certificate honoring their child is available to them if they so choose. The legislation before you today takes this away. Under state statute, the only requirement of healthcare practitioners regarding the certificate is when they are attending a miscarriage, which is defined as a pregnancy loss occurring before 20 weeks. They are to inform the woman of her option to request this certificate. LB 692 strikes this language and replaces it with the option for a patient to request a certificate. But how is a patient supposed to make that request if they aren't told it's an option that they have or even know that it exists? Hospitals are not required to provide paperwork about the birth certificate, and the mother can choose to apply the certificate at any time in the future if she chooses to do so. She is not required to fill out any paperwork or to make a decision about the certificate that day. Other issues that may arise in these situations, such as the handling of fetal remains or death certificates, are addressed in entirely separate laws and hospital policies and have not been altered in any way. In summary, the only effect of LB 692 as written is to limit the number of families who learn about this option after suffering a miscarriage. This would be a heartbreaking mistake, because while it may seem like a small thing to some, to many families, receiving something tangible with their child's name on it, recognizing their existence, and affirming their loss is everything. But this certificate can't help families who need it the most if they never know it's an option they have. Hospitals have their own policies on how to handle these incredibly difficult situations, and if they are ever handled insensitively, it should be addressed by working directly with individual hospitals and doctors, not by removing the ability for every other woman and family to hear about the certificate and re-traumatizing the women and families who value it. I'd like to close by sharing with the committee that after the bill creating the certificate was passed into law last year, our office received a call from a woman who thanked us for supporting that bill. Her name is Marilyn. Marilyn shared with us that she had miscarried twin boys at 18 weeks. Her loss occurred more than 50 years ago, but because it was documented in her medical records, she was eligible to receive certificates with the names of her twin boys on them. Marilyn wanted us to know that upon receiving her certificates in the mail, she immediately held them to her chest and twirled around with joy. Because for more than 50 years, she carried that burden and grief. And finally, she got the closure and healing she so desperately sought. Marilyn called this a miracle she thought would never come. With the creation and availability of this certificate, no one today should have to wait 50 years anymore to receive the validation and recognition of their loss. Don't take away what for many families might be their only opportunity to hear about this compassionate option that is already helping bring healing and closure to grieving parents. Thank you.